Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking into someone who I think is pretty fascinating, Sebastian Thrun.
Yes.
So, I was looking into all the stuff that he's worked on, and he's done self-driving cars. He's working on flying cars now.
Wow.
He was really involved in online education.
Yeah.
It's just amazing all the different areas this one person has touched, and all of it seems to have this common thread of using technology to try to improve people's lives and, just kind of help make the world a better place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Sebastian Thrun, he's this leading figure in AI and robotics and education. He's not just building the future, but he's really reshaping how we even think about it.
Yeah, so let's dive in.
Yeah.
So he didn't just appear out of thin air fully formed as a tech genius.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's fascination with technology goes way back to when he was a kid in Germany.
Oh, wow.
And even then, he was just fascinated by how things worked, especially computers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of set him on this path, went on, got his doctorate. And that's where he really dove deep into robotics and AI.
Yeah, and he kind of went down this path, less traveled in a way. Instead of just focusing on robots that follow pre-programmed instructions, step by step, he was really interested in this area called probabilistic robotics. It's about robots making decisions in the real world, where everything's changing, even when they don't have all the information. So imagine a robot trying to navigate a busy street downtown. Things are happening all the time, people walking out, cars swerving.
Yeah.
Thrun's work really enabled these robots to deal with that uncertainty.
So it's almost like he was trying to teach robots to think on their feet, be able to adapt and react to the unexpected.
Absolutely.
But how do you even begin to do that?
Right. Well, instead of being given a set of specific instructions, these robots, they use probabilities to make choices based on what they're sensing at that moment.
Wow.
It's they're always weighing their options, figuring out the best move to reach their goal.
So I guess that leads us to his work on self-driving cars, right?
Yeah.
I mean, navigating a crowded street is one thing, but Thrun's team at Stanford, they built a car that could drive itself across the desert.
Exactly. That was Stanley, the self-driving car that won the DARPA Grand Challenge back in 2005. And that wasn't just any race. It was a huge deal for robotics. The year before that, no car even finished the entire course.
Wow.
It was 150 miles through the Mojave Desert, and Stanley had to navigate all of it completely by itself.
150 miles. That's further than my GPS can handle sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm guessing Stanley wasn't just following some pre-programmed map, right?
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, Stanley was packed with all this cool technology like lasers and sensors and cameras, GPS, of course.
Right.
And all of that data was feeding into this really sophisticated algorithm. It was almost like the car was constantly asking itself, what if I go this way? What are the risks? What are the benefits? And Thrun and his team, they created this cost function, which I'm not going to get too technical.
You just don't, yeah.
But it looks like this. JXTUMXUQT. Basically, this formula helped Stanley calculate the cost of each possible decision, factoring in things like distance, safety, how fast it could go. It was all about finding the path that was the least risky and the most efficient.
So it sounds like Stanley was basically this robotic risk manager.
Yeah.
Just constantly calculating the best route, like a superpowered GPS.
Yeah.
I think that's why Google snatched him up, right? I mean, who wouldn't want the guy who built a self-driving desert champion on their team?
Exactly. Google brought Thrun in to lead their self-driving car project, which eventually became Waymo. But Thrun saw this as more than just making cool cars. He saw this as a way to solve real world problems, like accidents and traffic and pollution. He thought self-driving cars could make roads safer, cities more efficient, and help the planet. Pretty big vision.
Yeah.
But teaching a car to see and make split-second decisions out on the road,
right,
that is crazy complicated.
Yeah, definitely.
So these cars, they use LiDAR, radar, cameras to collect all this data about what's around them. And then all that data gets fed into these super smart algorithms so the car can understand the world and drive safely. And a key part of this is something called a Markov decision process.
Okay. I'm going to need you to break that down for me a little bit. Markov decision process.
Yeah, so it's basically like the car is constantly checking its current situation, right?
Yeah, okay.
And then it's trying to predict like what the best move is. It's almost like a game of chess where every move opens up all these new possibilities.
Right.
And the car has to think about what all the other cars around it are doing.
Like the other players.
Exactly, the other players, and then make a decision that gives it the best chance of getting where it needs to go safely.
So it's like the car's thinking several steps ahead, always trying to figure out like the odds of success for each move.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it, and there's a really complex formula behind it, but the main point is that it helps the car make these really smart decisions.
Wow. So we've got all this amazing technology, but then that makes me think about like the ethics of all this, right?
Oh, for sure.
Because like what happens in those situations where there's like an unavoidable accident?
Yeah.
Does the car like prioritize the safety of the passengers over pedestrians or other drivers? Like, how do you even begin to program those decisions?
Right. Well, that's one of the many, like, really tough questions that self-driving cars bring up. And Thrun, he's actually been really outspoken about making sure we consider the ethical implications of AI. It's not just about what's possible, but, like, what's right.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, that's good to hear. So from conquering the desert to navigating city streets, this guy never slows down. Because now he's got his sights set on the skies.
Right.
Flying cars.
With
Kitty Hawk.
Exactly. So his current project, Kitty Hawk, is all about developing these like personal aerial vehicles. I think he just wants to change how we get around like everywhere.
Like completely revolutionize transportation.
Yeah.
From robots that map places to self-driving cars on our streets and now flying cars.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's amazing how Sebastian Thrun has been involved in shaping the future of transportation. But his impact doesn't stop there. He's also done a ton in the field of education, especially with Udacity.
Right. It's like revolutionizing transportation wasn't enough for him. He wanted to revolutionize learning, too. And it makes sense when you think about his whole vision. Mm-hmm. You know, he sees AI not as replacing human intelligence, but as a way to, like, enhance it, to give people more power. And education is a key part of that. He wanted to make learning about AI and all these other cutting-edge fields accessible to anyone who wants to learn.
Yeah, it's like he took this idea of making learning more available, you know, breaking down the walls of traditional education and making it available to everyone.
Yeah. But, you know, sometimes with online learning, it's like all you do is just watch videos.
Yeah.
How do you get that hands-on experience, especially with something as complex as AI?
Yeah. Is Udacity just about watching videos?
No, not at all. Like from the beginning, Thrun knew that was a challenge. Udacity, it's not about passive learning. It's about active learning, doing real-world projects. Actually developing practical skills. It's not just theory. It's about taking what you learn and putting it to work.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So it's more like learning by doing, which makes sense with his whole idea of using AI to empower people.
Exactly.
And his first course on Udacity was about building self-driving cars. Mm. And that attracted something like 150,000 students from all over the world.
Wow. Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's a lot of people. I mean, it really shows how many people want to learn about this stuff. Mm-hmm. And the power of online learning to reach people no matter where they are.
Yeah. I guess it really is like democratizing knowledge, making it available to anyone with an internet connection. Yeah. Which I think is amazing. But all this talk about AI and all this advanced technology, it always makes me wonder about the future of jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Because you hear all these stories about robots taking over jobs and people losing their livelihoods and all that. Mm-hmm. What does Thrun think about all that?
Well, Thrun acknowledges that, yeah, as AI and automation become more widespread, there's a chance some jobs will be displaced.
Right.
But he's actually really optimistic about it.
Okay.
He believes that while some jobs might disappear, new opportunities are going to be created.
So it's not about like resisting the change, but more about like adapting to it?
Exactly. It's about learning new skills and being willing to kind of constantly learn throughout your life.
Lifelong learning.
Yeah.
And platforms like Udacity, I guess, are a big part of that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they give people a way to reskill and upskill and just stay ahead of the game. Yeah. You know, and be ready for whatever new opportunities come along because of AI.
So it's almost like he's building a bridge from where we are now to that future, giving people the tools and the knowledge they need to succeed in this world that's becoming more and more shaped by AI.
Yeah, and he's a great example of someone who is really using their brilliance and passion to push the boundaries of what's possible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's also making all this knowledge and opportunity accessible to everyone.
It really is inspiring.
Right. And what's really cool is that he's inspired this whole new generation of thinkers and innovators, problem solvers to follow in his footsteps.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder what incredible things he'll come up with next.
Who knows, but one thing's for certain.
What's that?
His work will continue to challenge how we think about the world and inspire us to dream bigger and empower us to create the future we want.
It all comes back to that idea of using technology to make the world a better place.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess that leaves us with one final question for you, our listeners. If you could use AI to solve one problem in the world, what would it be?
That's a great question.
What change would you want to set in motion?
Yeah, think about that. Maybe you'll be the next Sebastian Thrun. Changing the world, one algorithm at a time.
So that's it for our deep dive into the world of Sebastian Thrun. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
Yeah, it's he saw this need to make education more open, break down those barriers.
Right.
And make it available to everybody. And it really fits with his whole approach,
Yeah.
He doesn't see AI as this thing that's going to replace us.
Right.
He sees it as a way to make us better, to give people more power. And education is a huge part of that. He wanted to make learning about AI and all this cutting edge technology open to anyone who wants to learn it.
But isn't online learning sometimes just like watching videos?
Yeah.
How do you really get that hands-on experience, especially with something like AI that's so complex?
Right. Well, Thrun knew that was a challenge from the start. Udacity isn't about just sitting back and watching. It's about being active, doing real projects. Oh, wow.
Learning practical skills. It's not just about the theory. It's about actually using what you learn to solve real world problems.
It's learning by doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Which really fits with his whole philosophy. And, his very first course on Udacity was about building self-driving cars.
Right.
And over 160,000 students from all over the world signed up for that.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's amazing. It really shows you how many people are interested in this stuff and the power of online learning to reach anyone, anywhere.
For sure.
It really is democratizing knowledge, right?
Totally.
Making it accessible to anyone with an internet connection.
And all this talk about AI and how advanced it's getting, it always makes me think about what's going to happen to jobs.
Yeah, for sure.
Are robots going to take over everything? Are people going to lose their jobs?
Yeah, exactly. What does Thrun think about all of that?
Well, Thrun knows that some jobs might go away as AI and automation become more common.
Right.
But he's actually pretty optimistic about it. Okay, that's good.
He thinks that while some jobs might disappear, new ones will be created.
So it's not about fighting the chain.
Right.
It's more about adapting to it.
Exactly. Learning new skills.
Yeah.
And being open to learning new things throughout your life.
Lifelong learning.
Yeah, exactly.
And platforms like Udacity are a big part of that.
Absolutely. They help people learn those new skills, stay ahead of the curve.
So it's he's building this bridge to the future.
Yeah.
Giving people the tools they need to succeed in this world that's being shaped by AI.
It's really inspiring.
It is. Sebastian Thrun's impact goes way beyond robots and self-driving cars and even flying cars. He's this visionary leader who's shaping not just technology, but also how we learn and adapt to it.
He's a perfect example of someone using their talent and their passion to push the limits of what's possible.
Yeah.
While at the same time making knowledge and opportunity available to everyone.
And who knows what amazing innovations he'll come up with next.
Yeah, who knows? But one thing's for sure. His work is going to keep making us rethink things, dream bigger, and give us the power to create the future we want.
And it all comes back to that idea of using technology to make the world a better place.
Absolutely. So we have one last question for you, our listeners.
Ooh, okay, hit us with it.
If you had the power to use AI to solve one problem in the world, what would it be?
What would you change? Think about it. Maybe you'll be the next Sebastian Thrun.
Yeah, changing the world one algorithm at a time.
So that's our deep dive into the world of Sebastian Thrun. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.